Hello, my name is Richard Corbett from emergebydesign.net, and welcome to my weekly astrological and human design report. This week, we've got a lot happening. We had Mercury turn retrograde yesterday on Sunday. He'll be in retrograde for the next 3 weeks until November 29th. We also have Jupiter turning retrograde this week in gate 62. And we're also going to have our third quarter moon taking place on Tuesday. She'll be in gate 4 when that happens. Let's go ahead and jump right into the chart and see what's happening. Okay, as we look at the charts for Monday, November 10th, you'll see the body graph and the astrological wheel. As a reminder, all of my charts are set for noon Mountain Time, except for the lunations. So when we get to the third quarter moon, I'll indicate the time that those charts are for. Also in the astrological wheel, I don't use the house system because that would vary depending on where you are on the planet. So all of the astrological wheels are set to 0 degrees Aries. Okay, so as we start out the week, we can see that the sun is wrapping up its time in gate 1 and in line 6 with the Earth and its polarity opposition in gate 2. And that is giving us the channel of inspiration, the design of a creative role model. So one more day of this for Monday. Quite a potent planets here, having the life force energy of the sun in the most creative yang gate and the body graph. Uranus moved backwards into gate 8, line 6, just last week. And so we're going to have, again this week, a lot more individual activations as well as channels. Now, as we look at the astrological wheel, some other important things that are happening, we can see that the moon at this noontime chart, she has just entered the sign of Leo. And in doing that, she is going to form an opposition to Pluto in gate 60. This will be the last moon opposite Pluto while Pluto is in gate 60, because in about 3 weeks on December 5th, Pluto will finally move into gate 41, and that'll be end of his almost 3.5 years there. So I think what all of these activations that have to do with gate 60 right now, I think are extremely important. So this final moon opposite Pluto here, I'm thinking of this, one more beautiful opportunity to have this emotional release or letting go of limitations. Wherever we're finding that fear, doubt, insecurity, this will be another chance. And there's been a lot of them, so we don't need to feel left behind. I just want to indicate that I think these final days with Pluto in the gate of limitation is this encouragement to accept, to surrender. Things are what they are. We don't have control over all that. What we do have control of is our inner world. And I think any wounds that are still nagging at us, it could be an opportunity for offering forgiveness to those who have transgressed us, or possibly letting ourselves off the hook. But definitely a transformational time. We started out this lunar cycle in Libra, and at the time of that new moon chart this month, we actually had the channel of mutation, gate 60, gate 3, as a signature of this lunar cycle. So again, this Pluto in gate 60, a big part of this month as we'll head into the final week of this lunar cycle. Additionally, we can see that with the moon at 0 degrees of Leo, forming a trine to Neptune, would have formed a trine to Saturn a few hours earlier, and then trining Neptune. So we can see this strong trine activity. We have Jupiter also trining Saturn, both at 25 degrees. That trine didn't actually perfect on this go around. Jupiter's going to turn retrograde on Tuesday. We're going to see this trine in effect all week long. This is a longer term transit due to the slow movement of Jupiter and Saturn. But what we can see here, this trine, this idea, let's think about this. We've got Jupiter, the planet of expansion. Whatever Jupiter shines its big, bright light on brings quite a focus to it. And Jupiter is in gate 62, where he's going to turn retrograde in this line of details. And then trining Saturn, the planet of limitations, restrictions, discipline, structure. in gate 36. Saturn's going to be retrograde until the end of November, so he's really slowing down right here. In fact, Saturn has moved back to gate 36, line 3, and that's as far back as he'll go. He's going to move a few more minutes of an astrological degree backwards, but going to be in gate 36, line 3 until moving forward at the end of the month. So here we have expansion and structure in this supportive communicative trine here. So something about this crisis or a feeling, gate 36 being in the solar plexus, part of a primary manifesting channel, the idea that this new feeling may bring a bit of a crisis. And I think Jupiter's shining a light here saying, we need to look at the details. So again, this idea of letting go, Pluto in gate 60, limitations, how did we get to where we are? Let's take a look at the logical details. Maybe this is with a romantic partner, this scenario I'm describing for you, or possibly a coworker, a neighbor. Both Jupiter and the moon at this time are sextile to Uranus, and also Saturn and Neptune on the other side are also sextiling Uranus in that gate 8. With all this individual activation going on, we're really getting stimulated at that deep inner core of who we are as a unique, authenticated individual human being, and what our contribution might be. What is our purpose? Where do we see ourselves going in life? And I think we're getting a transit here that's really pressing on us, saying, well, yeah, what's this all about? And what's keeping us from doing that? What's holding us back? And I think that's Pluto's final message here as we come into the week on Monday. And then shortly, just a few hours after this noontime chart, the moon will also stimulate Mars and Mercury in Sagittarius, forming that trine. Now, what I like about this overall pattern that we're looking at on Monday is with the moon in gate 56, this is called the gate of stimulation. And it's about a expression of our emotional experiences. Has very much to do with storytelling. I believe this is what happened. I feel this is what happened, and here's what could happen next. So I think with the moon here, again, it's an opportunity to listen to our sharings. Right? Do we hear our truth of frequency? Or is it distorted? And only we can know, right? I mean, we can put on a fake face for other people, but when we say something, we can really tell if we're listening to our body, is this our frequency of truth? And so I think we're kind of set up for that as we come into the week on Monday. So let's go ahead and take a look at Tuesday. Now, when we get to Tuesday, we're going to have our third quarter moon. So this is the one slide I'll present in this video that is not noon Mountain Time. The exact time of the third quarter moon is 10:28 p.m. Mountain Time. You can see the moon is over here in Leo at 20 degrees. We can see that it's forming this exact square to the sun, and in gate 4 at the minute of exact third quarter. So as a reminder, we are in the final stage of this lunar cycle. It started with the new moon in Libra in gate 50, the gate of values, the cauldron. So we knew that we might be talking about this month the values in the relationship. What is the structure that supports honest communication, leading to harmony within any relationship we're talking about? Then we had a full moon in Taurus a week ago in gate 2, line 1. That was the gate of higher knowing. So through relationship, finding grounding for our own sense of receptivity and personal direction into the future. So as we come into the third quarter moon, at this stage, every lunar cycle, the idea is that the moon is coming home for another new moon in a week. That it's an opportunity to develop emotional wisdom and experience from the lunar cycle so far. So if we look at the gate the moon is in at the third quarter, we can always get a message here. Each quarter moon, I think the gate and line that the moon is in offers us something to put context into our own particular life and what our experience may be feeling like right now. But the idea is bringing that emotional wisdom and adjustment, right? After we crest the full moon, And as she's coming home, it's about readjusting things with the newfound wisdom that we've learned through those experiences. And she's in gate 4, line 2. Now, in human design, this is called the gate of formalization. And it often can feel like a conceptualized answer. We're looking at a pattern of predictability on whether something is healthy and sustainable. And once again, I'm thinking about this Jupiter in gate 62, which is also part of the same logic circuitry that gate 4 is. And so we may have had a really big emotional experience this month. We have had a grand water trine happening off and on all month that we're going to see again in a couple days. I'll be speaking about it in just a few minutes. But it's been a very watery, emotional world. And as we're coming into the final phase of this lunar cycle, we're seeing this logical circuitry in the third quarter moon bank. Have we come up with an answer? And it's Jupiter's pointing to the fact with Saturn that there's something about the emotional structure and the pattern that it's been in that is not working, or it is working. Could go either way. But I think it's through recognizing healthy and sustainable patterns that we can find the formula to adjust the details. So you can see if that phrasing applies to your life and where you may be seeing that. And some other things I want to mention is that also on Tuesday, Jupiter, as you can see, has turned red here on the screen, the gate or the 25th degree. So Jupiter is turning retrograde now. Jupiter got within 10, 11 minutes of a degree of perfection in this trine with Saturn, but didn't reach it. So again, they'll be traveling in lockstep, but we didn't quite see the culmination of that energy. But it is in effect all week. And we also can see that this sextile between Uranus and Neptune continues to get stronger. They're only 6 minutes of a degree from exact sextile. So again, we're talking Uranus in gate 8, Neptune in gate 25. And so I think we can really feel these two archetypes working in concert. Gate 25, the gate of innocence. It's about living life without preconditions, right? Just accepting with innocence, humility, whatever comes our way, and how that is such a process. Part of the process we've been talking about with these other planets, overcoming limitations, letting fears from the past fall away, allowing forgiveness and healing to enter our life. And Neptune in gate 25 is doing that as well. It's like Neptune brings this dissolving quality, a washing away of pre-existing conditions we may have had to allow our authenticity to show through. And so the work that Neptune is doing in that gate 25 is really contributing to what Uranus is now doing in gate 8, bringing this sudden opportunity to provide a empowered sense of contribution to wherever we want to offer that in our life, whatever scenario that fits in for you. So that would be Tuesday. Let's go ahead and move into Wednesday, November 12th. Now on Wednesday, we're going to get the exact conjunction of Mercury and Mars. Now this conjunction has already happened once when Mercury was moving forward, and now we're getting the second one. It happens about 4:30 p.m. So you can see Mercury at 6 degrees and Mars at almost 6 degrees. The exact conjunction will take place around 4:30. And so let's think about this Mercury here, Mercury and retrograde. I mentioned last week in my video, Mercury retrograde gets such bad rap, right? But I always encourage us to remember it's a natural cycle of the year. It happens 3 or 4 times for 3 weeks. And so, yes, we can be prepared for delays, canceled appointments, computer malfunctions. Those things can be part of a Mercury retrograde. But the value and the benefit of the Mercury retrograde is an opportunity to go back and review, to reflect, to mentally slow down and reassess the details. We have been moving at such an increased pace of life right now. I think it really feels like the uncertainty as we barrel into the future on so many layers has been so difficult But Mercury retrograde now is saying, hey, let's take a mental pause here. And I think if we have that type of approach, I have found that to be very successful while Mercury is in retrograde. And I can often clean up some steps that I may have skipped over or details that I may have missed. And that can be really helpful because Jupiter's in the details, right? Gate of details. But what's challenging about the conjunction with Mars is that Mars is still moving forward and they're lining up in gate 9. Gate 9 in the body graph is down here in the sacral center, and it's the life force energy to focus on the pattern. And Mars in this particular line 1, where the conjunction is, puts it in the detriment. We can see that both, if we look at the activation in the body graph here, we can see that Mars energy is not comfortable in setting. Mars is in Sagittarius and moving forward. He wants to move on to the next mountain, the next valley, get it done. Where Mercury's moving backwards in this gate of focus, saying, we really want to sit tight here and take a look at what's happening to really intellectually, Mercury retrograde, review the focuses that we've had. Where has it been? It's a little bit of a mixed bag in that sense. But I think, again, our sort of attitude and awareness of these transits can help us relax here on Wednesday to say that, okay, there's something more to see here. As I'm saying that, I also have to mention, which I didn't yet, is that as of Wednesday morning, the sun moved into gate 43. Now, because the chart, that was on Tuesday, and so that's why you didn't see the line 1. But as of Wednesday, after the third quarter moon, we've got the sun in gate 43, line 2. Now, what I want to say about this particular channel, it's called the channel of structuring, and it has gate 43, which is breakthrough insights. This gate in the Ajna Center is about conceptualizing and eventually coming up with the breakthrough, individual, honest insight that we want to share or assimilate gate 23, where the earth is, with others. So again, individual channel can be self-empowering, but it also brings with it uncertainty. It's tied to that pulse. So we don't always know when we're going to have this unique insight that we want to share. Nonetheless, it is connected to this deep personal part of ourselves that is seeking contribution of our self-empowerment. So we're going to have this all the way till the weekend. We're going to have this channel of structuring. I feel like part of this focus here, what we're being shown by the Mars-Mercury conjunction is where we can focus to understand for ourselves, what does our new idea, if we've been going through the healing process, the plutonic shedding of old patterns that are no longer serving us, how is this process bringing a new insight that we can assimilate and share with others, and to recognize that whenever we see individual circuitry in a transit that's affecting us all, or in a natal body graph, it's something that's deeply personal, but it's not always understood by the other. It can take numerous sharings to actually help the other person understand us, should they want to. So it brings that sense of uncertainty, but also if we can be with it and allow the process to follow our personal authority, we may experience profound breakthroughs mentally that we can share with others in an empowered way. So that is on Wednesday. Let's go ahead and move it into Thursday. And on Thursday, November 13th, not a whole lot to share here that I haven't already touched on, although we can see that the moon is traveling through Virgo right now. In this mutable earth sign, this can be very grounding for the moon. And so we do see that she, at this noontime chart, is in a half square to that Jupiter in gate 62. The moon herself is in gate 40, called the gate of aloneness in the ego center. And a half square might feel like bit of emotional friction here with the details. It doesn't really want to deal with those details right now, but we can still feel this trine. I mean, this is such a close, strong trine with Saturn and Jupiter. So we're still dealing with this idea of how the emotional structures, having dealt with a possible crisis or a new feeling that's arisen, how do we assimilate that into the details of patterns of successful and healthy ways into the future? All right, so that would be Thursday. And let's go into Friday, November 14th. So we've got quite a few things happening here. The moon's still traveling through Virgo, currently in gate 47, line 6 at noon. So for all of the morning hours would have formed the channel of abstraction, gate 64 and gate 47. Now, gate 64 and gate 63 are being activated by the nodes. They moved into those gates last week, and I shared that on the report. They're going to be there for about 3 months. So that's just an ongoing pressure, mental pressure that we all may be encountering in others or feeling from ourselves. And with the moon short-term transit through 47 here on Friday, we're really looking backwards again. And that can be helpful because we're in the final few days of the lunar cycle. And again, with the Mercury retrograde, the moon in 47, looking at the emotional experiences of the past, trying to rationalize what those experiences mean. Again, with all that happening, we may experience a breakthrough insight based on that. We're getting some challenging aspects, though. The moon, as you can see, at 22 degrees of Virgo, over the coming hours after noontime, the moon is going to form an opposition first to Saturn and then later in the day to Neptune. And then while the moon is opposite Saturn, we also have Venus here over in Scorpio in gate 44, forming a square and a half with that Saturn. And so I think what we're feeling here is Saturn's at the apex of these aspects to the moon and Venus. And so again, we're feeling a bit of a frictional energy here. I mean, Venus in gate 44, she wants to know. Gate 44 is the instinctual knowing of what will up-level our family, community, our tribe. And Saturn is there in that 36 saying, not so fast. Saturn in retrograde. And as I say Saturn in retrograde, it just makes me want to remind us all that we've got Neptune still in retrograde, Uranus in retrograde, Saturn in retrograde, Jupiter just turned retrograde, Chiron's in retrograde, Mercury's in retrograde. Okay, so that's a lot of retrogrades, right? So it's like things may feel like they're moving fast, and I feel like they are. But we might feel like we're not getting anywhere. It's kind of like things are moving fast, but it's on replay. So it's like there's a lot of activity, but things aren't really moving forward. And I think that's still what we're seeing here, right? It's not going to be till we get later in the calendar year when all these planets start to turn forward that we might actually see the progress that we were hoping for. But what I see right now is very great time for seed planting, to really appreciate the small actions we take for ourselves and for those that we love and care and work with. What we're doing now is going to have tremendous benefit all the way into next summer because we're in larger theme patterns that are existing now between the outer planets that'll dissipate over the winter and come back next summer. So there's a connection in these outer planetary patterns that I talked about in a few of my videos ago about the outer planets. And I think that's sort of the overall theme that we're feeling, sort of that maybe 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, if you will, this sort of greater retrograde energy. It asks us for patience. And again, especially with the Mercury retrograde right now, and these particular aspects that we're looking at, Moon, Venus, and Saturn, it's just, stimulating us to take a second look here, to be patient with our words, to think before we speak, not barreling ahead too hard. Mars wants to. Mars is, as I look at the chart here, we can see Mars is still in gate 34, the gate of Mercury. I said Mars, I meant to say Mercury. Mercury has moved back into gate 34, line 6, and the raw power. So this is Mars with, I keep saying Mars, I'm sorry. Mercury with a lot of energy here, wanting to speak its power, but moving backwards. And so again, you can feel the tenuous situation here. I think it's about being mindful. To think before we speak kind of feels like a good antidote right here with that charged Mercury in retrograde. Okay, let's go ahead and move into Saturday, November 15th. And on Saturday, we can see Chiron is getting a number of aspects. Chiron doesn't get activation in the body graph in the program, but he would be located in gate 42, the gate of growth. And so I've been really appreciating Chiron here. To me, even though he's in retrograde still, that, there is true potential for healing growth right now. Getting a couple difficult aspects, though. Aspects, one from the sun, forming a quincunx with that Chiron. This is gate 43, and a quincunx is uncomfortable. There's a bit of an awkwardness, and so this insight isn't really lined up with what the healing process is calling for. And then in addition to that, we've got Mercury and Mars, really, because they're close enough. Both of them are in a square and a half to Chiron. And so I mentioned Mercury in that gate 34, Mars still in the gate 9, forming these challenging aspects. A bit of an old hurt coming to the surface, I feel like here, but we're also getting some very supportive flowing energy. You can see that we've got this grand water trine here that I was mentioning. We have from Saturn, Neptune down to Jupiter, and then we have all this going up to the sun here. And so you can see I'm doing it in red, but I'm outlining this grand water trine, and Mercury will come back to activate this again. We've had this a lot because we had Mercury moving forward weeks ago. We had Mars pass through here. Now we have the sun here. Mercury's coming back. We're going to have Venus come here. So we've been having this Scorpio, late Scorpio, a lot of activations creating this grand water trine. And when you have this much water for the whole month, one thing we can say about water is that it's emotional, right? It's very emotional. And it also, water carries memory in our bodies. And so there could be this flowing or emotional overload of past memories causing the past hurts with that Chiron. It can feel challenging but productive, I guess. It's a conflicting energy, right? Between the trines and the hard square and quincunxes we're seeing. I think it's just real dynamic. I think it's really going inward. I think using the moon right here, using this, we're going home. What did we learn? What can we share? What have we healed from? And I think that's really going to be the best foot forward. We're in an interesting stage in the greater pattern that I was mentioning. And so I think our actions are important, but to be patient enough to recognize that we may not see the fruits of our benefit right now. Just staying the course, following authority. These things are going to shake out as we move forward in time. Okay, we'll go ahead and move into one more day here on Sunday, November 16th. And once again, you can see this grand water trine here that I was outlining just the day before. And it's really strong. And we still have that sextile between Neptune in gate 25 and Uranus in gate 8. And also the moon passing through Libra in gate 57, the gate of bone deep penetrating intuition, is lined up with that Mercury in gate 34. We're getting the channel of power, a design of an archetype here. There might be a hit that comes through here. There's something that it's like a piece to our puzzle or a clue that we may find. And overall, you can see that it's mostly trines and sextiles. Sunday, really this weekend can be a really relaxing time to just enjoy wherever we are in life. I think would be whatever the small things, right? To notice the details of what we're focused on. Where are we putting our energy right now? And I think, again, in the big picture, what we're doing now is really important. I think just having that attention and focus, and again, really accepting what Neptune is bringing for his final time in Pisces at this 29th degree in gate 25, line 2. He's not going to go any further back than 25, line 2. And so there's some deep work right here. And it's just, I think, a matter of being patient during the Mercury retrograde to notice the details, patterns of predictability. Are they healthy and sustainable? Are they promoting our emotional maturity and our chironic healing of growth in gate 42? Where's our focus right now? I think leaking energy, piling up too many commitments, Anything that's getting us out in front of ourselves right now can have a hard backlash. But I think that idea of patience and focus can be super beneficial for whatever project or situation we're working with right now. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining me. If you got support out of this, please hit the like button, or if you're new, to subscribe. We always appreciate the opportunity to grow our community and emerge by design. And I wish you all a wonderful week. Thank you, and bye for now.